most used AI app after ChatGPT is Character AI. They get 20,000 queries per second, which is 20% of Google search volume. If you go on Dippy.ai right now and you chat with a character, there's two models you can pick. So there's a default model, and then there's a mini model. And the mini model is made on Bittensor by miners on SN11. And then the inferencing of that mini model is done on Targo. We're doubling down on Dippy. We're doubling down on Bittensor. And then since then, the app has just been growing like insane. We launched just in April, and now we have 600,000 monthly active users. We have really successful early experiments monetizing the app as well. And really excited to see where the app's revenue scales from here. But yeah, pivotal moment. The month we started doing Bittensor was the month the whole business turned around and really took off.
Welcome to the Ventura Labs podcast, where we dive into the world of Bittensor and explore the latest developments and innovations. Today, we are joined by Angad and Akshat, co-founders of Dippy, experts in AI companionship and open source innovation. In this conversation, we'll be discussing their journey from university students to successful entrepreneurs, the development of their AI companion app, Dippy, and their insights on building a consumer-focused AI startup within the Bittensor ecosystem. And now, back to Angad and Akshat with the 12th Ventura Labs podcast.
What is your guys' background and how did you get involved with Bittensor?
Well, yeah, I can start with our background. Akshat and I met freshman week at University of Toronto about 6 years ago. This was 2018. And we both were pretty interested in entrepreneurship. Akshat has a solid background in like making apps, and I was really impressed by that. I wanted to get into finance and investment banking, and then Akshat sort of pulled me away, and he was like, "Oh, you should do apps." And then we both developed a pretty solid interest in AI pretty early. We were really lucky to go to University of Toronto, which I would say is the birthplace of modern AI. Some of our upperclassmen started like really successful AI companies. So Cohere is one of the companies that came out of University of Toronto. It was one of Akshat's upperclassmen in the CS program, Nick Frost. And Jeffrey Hinton was a professor there. He just won a Nobel Prize. He's like the godfather of AI. So just really lucky to be surrounded by really talented AI folks and just have this community there. And yeah, I guess Akshat, you want to talk about from there and how we got involved with Bittensor?
I guess we tried like a bunch of projects in college as well, mostly building like fun consumer apps. And then in our third year, we started a company called Wombo with some of the other people also on the Bittensor network and from University of Toronto. And that absolutely blew up. It scaled to hundreds of millions of downloads, and it was like a first sort of foray into venture-backed official startup. We worked on the company for 2 years, and then both Angad...
This is Wombo, by the way.
This is Wombo. And then both Angad and I left in early 2023. I decided to take some time off, and then we got really fascinated by this idea of like a proactive AI assistant that reaches out to you and sort of knows everything about you. So we decided to start another company, and that's what Dippy is. We initially started with a productivity assistant, quickly realized no one's interested in being productive. Most people want to just chat with the AI all day about random stuff, and decided to apply the same proactive thesis from productivity assistant to AI companions. And that's how we started building Dippy. An early problem that we ran into with Dippy was the LLM itself that's required for roleplay is needed to be uncensored as well as empathetic, as well as therapeutic. That's mostly the main use cases of how people use these apps. And none of the bigger sort of AI companies like OpenAI or Mistral or even Claude, like Anthropic, had like uncensored LLMs as an offering. Our biggest competitor, Character, had sort of raised hundreds of millions of dollars to train their LLM from scratch. And so we decided to resort to Bittensor to be able to do that in a capital efficient way with the help of, I guess, world-class people mining on the subnet.
We'll get into Dippy in a second. I want to focus more on your guys' background for a second. You guys were at Wombo. There was 4 other co-founders from what I understand.
Yeah, that was
including
6
you guys.
Yeah, at Wombo.
Yeah, it's quite a large startup there. And you guys mentioned a professor named Jeffrey Hinton, who's referred to as the godfather of like deep learning. What was y'all's relationship with him? Did you take his classes? Were you guys close or anything?
So I think by the time we were at the university, he was too big a name for us to be able to like take his classes, and he was more of a researcher. But I guess he would speak at events, and so he spoke at like really accessible events that like any UFT student could go to. You would see him walking around campus all the time. So I would see him walking at the Creative Destruction Lab in the Rotman building. But I guess the point I was making was just like that caliber of folks was around. And I don't know if you know about the Transformers paper. It was a really important paper that came out in 2017. And actually the main author was the founder of Character AI, but one of the co-authors was like, I think 3 years older than us at UFT, Aiden Gomez, 3 or 4 years older than us. But those were just the type of people that we were around, and that was the culture.
And I guess you naturally get some energy rubbed off on you or decide to take like a deeper look into what's happening. I'd say like UFT AI was also like a big club.
So Akshat first ran into Ben Zion, who is like running Wombo now. So I would say Benzi is like Mr. Wombo, but the first time he ran into Benzi wasn't even through Wombo, it was through UFT AI.
Yeah.
He like emailed Ben, and that's how he met Ben the first time, or like interacted with Ben the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome that there were so many people working on AI, and then it just inspired y'all's whole career path. So what you guys are doing now is Dippy AI. Y'all hit number 3 on Germany's App Store recently. Y'all have some other big things that just had happened. But what is Dippy, if you had to explain it to somebody?
It's AI friends that reach out to you. Pretty much, I guess, as simple as that.
You guys said your biggest competitor is Character AI. That is a very large company. How do you compare to them currently?
I'd say like, so Character's taken like this interesting approach where they've sort of rebranded them as like an AGI lab. That's what all their public-facing statements claim, that they're building AGI through this. We don't want to do any of that. We're not an AGI lab. We only want to focus on product, and we want to deliver a great experience to our users. I'd say like there were a bunch of like missing, almost like gaps in their product, which we spotted early on with, for example, they censor a lot of stuff. So they don't let you talk about like, if you have like a childhood trauma, for example. We've seen examples of people switch away from Character because it's 3 a.m. and they don't have anyone to talk to, and Character's constantly censoring what they have to say. Or 75% of their traffic is from mobile, but they don't have a good mobile app. They're web first, and that's how they started. They don't have like a lot of basic features in place which users want and expect. For example, memory is another great example. Their bots are extremely reactive and they forget everything quickly. So they're limited by the context window of the LLM, versus we're sort of constantly scanning for what our users tell us and extracting the important bits. So if you tell a character on Dippy that you're flying to San Francisco 2 weeks from now, it'll remember that and ask you questions, or maybe even recommend some places to check out.
By the way, before we get deeper into the product, I think this is very misunderstood. I think the whole space is very misunderstood. A lot of people don't know, but companionship is the biggest consumer use case of AI. And so if you look at what are the most used AI apps, I'll send you a write-up A16Z released just a month or two ago. The most used AI app after ChatGPT is Character AI. And I think a lot of people still don't know this. So character, this is a blog post they released, I think 4 months ago. And they say they get 20,000 queries per second, which is 20% of Google search volume. Like that's ridiculous. And if you speak to any person and you ask them about character AI or you ask them about AI companionship, they still think it's something like really far off away or like not something the average person uses. But the data really suggests otherwise. And right now, a lot of these products, their primary usage is text based. So it's all LLM based. So it's you writing something, the character responds back in text. The way human beings naturally interact is through voice and I guess video and just like that's how humans naturally interact is through actions, body language. And so you can only imagine like once the voice models get really good, once the video models get really good, once the image models are pretty good already, but basically as we expand into like more natural human-like modalities, this is going to become only more commonplace. And it already is like the biggest consumer use case of AI, and all the data suggests that as well.
20% of Google search volume is a massive addressable market.
And this is so early. It's so early. Like character came out around the time ChatGPT came out.
Yeah.
So really early for the product and the whole space.
20,000 queries a second is what you said.
That was 4 months ago.
Yeah, that was a few months ago. This is on Character. They have a research blog, and you can just their blog. It's called Optimizing AI Inference at Scale, so anyone can find that. Yeah. And everything they do, okay, so like everything they do is closed source. So like this sort of relates to what we're doing. So Character AI, it's now a Google company, right? And now just relating this to our work on Bittensor, right? We have, if you look at productivity LLMs, right? So if you look at ChatGPT or you look at Anthropic, these are, I would say, mostly enterprise use or like productivity use cases, right? They have a very strong like counter force in the open source ecosystem. So we have like Meta is constantly releasing new version of Llamas. Mistral has open source a lot of great models. But if you look at the role play space, there really isn't any counter force. And it's like, do we want like Google to have access to be the only sort of party creating these models and being the only group that knows sort of how these models are trained, what the architecture is? Probably not. And so that's the goal of our Bittensor subnet. It's to create like the world's best open source roleplay LLM. And I think we've made a lot of progress. Our models are very tiny right now. They're 7 billion parameter. So it's probably much smaller than what Character is using in their app. But these tiny models are performing really, really well. So it's performing better than GPT 3.5 Turbo on EQ Bench, which is a roleplay bench, which is a benchmark for emotional intelligence of LLMs. It's performing better than Llama 3.8B. And the models on our subnet are only going to get better over time. And just 2 days ago, the models on our subnet now power the Dippy app. So it's one of 2 models we offer all our free users. I think the model will get about over 500,000 requests per second. So this month. So I think that this is the first example of a consumer app with millions of users actually showcasing, hey, like something awesome was built on Bittensor and people love it. And we're actually using another Bittensor subnet to do inferencing. So it's like fully Bittensor powered. So the model was fine-tuned and trained on Bittensor on our subnet 11. And then the inference is being done on subnet 4. So yeah, fully Bittensor powered.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into all that. Simply stated, what would you say your subnet does? What do the miners do? What's the interaction with miners, validators there?
Yeah, I guess the goal of the subnet is to produce the world's best open source roleplay LLM. And the way miners do that is by merging, training, or fine-tuning different models to be good at the specific roleplay tasks. And we have like a defined criteria for it. For example, we have like a synthetically generated conversational data set that's entirely consisted of like role play conversations. And then we have like a thing called the vibe score. And what that means is if you say hey to a friend on a character app, you don't want like a bulleted list response of you're doing well, human, here's like 5 things to do today. You just want to say, hey, what's up? And so that maintains the length of the response and the vibe of the response.
And minors, you want to talk about the data set and why with the work we've done on it, why the Dippy app itself gives us such a unique advantage there.
Yeah, I guess like the data set that I was mentioning uses the characters created by the users on the app as like the baseline. So we open sourced something called the Dippy character codex. The name sort of inspired by News, who also did a similar thing. But ours is user generated, much larger, and we use that to create role play conversations based on the scenario that's defined for the character. We use like a combination of like 6 much bigger models that are unique, have like unique spikes in certain areas. Like, for example, Claude is really empathetic, or we have this model called Mythomax that's really good at role play specifically. And we use like a mixture of those to create these conversations and benchmark the.
It's interesting. So you're saying basically the app conversational history, y'all made an open source data set to help train models for your subnet.
I wouldn't say it's like the conversations from the app. It's more so the characters from the app. And then the characters have a starting message or like a scenario that the character is in right now. And we use these 6 bigger models to produce conversations using that scenario specifically. And then the minor model is supposed to reply to it. Then the bigger model replies to the minor model and so on. That's how the conversations, I guess, continue.
The miners have basically creative freedom of what models they want to use or how they want to train their models and everything. Why did you decide to go that route and not a more deterministic, hey, run this model this way?
Yeah, I mean, we feel like there's like a lot of new tricks and innovations that people can come if you give them the freedom to experiment and sort of figure out their own way on how they want to submit a model. We don't actually care about how you do it or like what sort of trick you pull off. We care about the end result, and that's sort of the criteria that's defined by us. But if you find like a new unique way to train a much higher quality model with much less parameters, we don't want to limit you to some deterministic way of training a model.
And I assume that's where you would say being a part of Bittensor enhances y'all's value proposition.
Yeah, exactly. We have seen some like pretty legit miners from companies like Anthropic.
Yeah, we have a miner that works at Anthropic. He mines in our subnet on his free time. He's working on Claude multimodal, and then in his free time he mines on Subnet 11. We met PhD. A lot of these guys like to stay anonymous, so we're gonna keep them anonymous. But we have PhDs from universities all around the world, and again they mine on our subnet in their free time. And our goal is like we just added this model to our app, but our goal is, hey, like our subnet is a public good subnet. So it's similar to Subnet 9 pre-training. So all the models are open source. Our goal is over time as we showcase, hey, like this model is really great. It's being used by millions of users on Dippy. Hopefully other AI companion apps can be like, oh wow, Bittensor is this like really awesome AI research lab essentially. And we should also use this model that's built on Bittensor.
Can almost compare it to like the stable diffusion moment for images. Maybe something similar will be done for roleplay.
And you hope to be the source that everyone taps into.
Yes, Bittensor, our minor models.
And you have recently, you said 2 days ago, partnered with Subnet 4, Manifold, Robert and them, to start hosting your models to, I guess, allow for organic requests to produce inferences. how is that relationship defined with them? What does that partnership look like?
Yeah, it was actually pretty straightforward. They reached out to us and we had this model that we wanted to host and also basically test whether decentralized inference even works in the first place. I'd say this is like a great proof of concept of how it works, and it seems to be scaling really well till now, and we've become paying customers actually based on the performance.
And ideally, over time, we want to move all our inferencing to Bittensor. And so there's two main inferencing subnets, there's Targon and 19. And so it would be amazing to move all our inference from like these centralized AI companies to Bittensor subnets.
So right now you have just one of your characters being hosted by
One of
some
our models. So if you go on Dippy.ai right now and you chat with a character, there's two models you can pick. So there's a default model and then there's a mini model. And the mini model is made on Bittensor by miners on SN11. And then the inferencing of that mini model is done on Targon.
And you can chat with all characters.
And you can chat with all characters on the Dippy app. And you can even monitor the usage of the model. So if you go on targon.com, I'll just link this to you as well. And then you can see the different models, how much usage they're getting. And the usage of the SN11 model has been growing pretty nicely. Put it in chat.
Yeah, I was checking out the logs earlier, and I saw, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was something like 20,000 organic requests already.
Per day.
Yeah, it's per day.
Yeah,
It's
per
close to
day.
30,000 per day. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. How, I guess why did you guys choose to build with Bittensor instead of a standalone business? Because y'all definitely could have done that.
I think it was like a really convoluted and I would say like capital intensive direction to go through. Like if you want to train your own LLM from scratch, it needs hundreds of millions of dollars. You need to raise a lot of VC money. That was the only option. We didn't have like millions of dollars lying around personally.
You have to hire a team of character, had like 30, 50 researchers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like Bittensor serve as like a great alternative where you can tap into the world's best brains. They get compensated really well for it, while you also get to train state-of-the-art models.
And it's all open source.
Yeah.
So that's good for the world.
That's awesome. You guys mentioned earlier that you want to expand to vision and voice models to be hosted also or used in your app on the subnet. What does that plan look like? What do you want to do there?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen OpenAI's voice model, but it does seem like people feel a deeper sense of connection and companionship when you add the modality of voice. It almost feels like you're talking to like a sidekick while you go back and forth in like a playful manner. And thus far, there's actually not that many source high quality human-like voice models, I would say. So OpenAI is one, I would say 11 Labs is another, but all of those are in closed source. They don't open source anything about how their training methodology is or how did they collect such high quality human data. And we think Bittensor could also offer like a great counterbalance there while also helping the product.
And so this is actually what our new subnet does. So we're talking about first year. We're about to announce it soon, most likely on Monday. But we've grabbed slot 58, which was the most recent slot. So our new subnet is subnet 58, and we'll be announcing more info on Monday. But it's called a Dippy empathetic speech subnet.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The next question was, is it going to be a part of the same subnet or are you guys going to expand to multiple?
Yeah, it's part of a new subnet, I guess. Primarily because there's a lot to be done on the voice side with respect to data collection and text to speech. Like it's like a whole pipeline versus just training an LLM. So we wanted to do it properly with focus.
There you go. Yeah, I was going to ask why you didn't want to combine the two, but that makes sense. It's more intricate. There's other things involved. For future plans, how do you guys factor in detail? What are y'all's thoughts on detail?
I guess personally, I'm really excited about it. I think it's like a more democratic way of voting which subnets you like. And it sort of, I don't know, levels the playing field for a lot of people and sort of gets rid of a lot of insiders, politics, and I guess just coalitions. And I mean, it's always great when anyone can sort of vote and have their voice heard. We're already starting to see it with like the S-Tau launches on a bunch of validators, like I think Datura and Miners Union and our roundtable. Personally excited for it.
And then hopefully, if data works as promised, I think Dippy should be one of the really well-positioned subnets, given that we're consumer-facing, we have a lot of users, we, I guess, have been very public about what we're doing. I'm not I wasn't a Twitter influencer at all before Bittensor, but now I've just to make it clear what we're working on, I've been sharing info on our roadmap, and like every time we make progress, I've been really like keeping people in the loop, and hopefully all of that pays off, especially in detail.
Does detail change anything about how you guys will operate the subnet? Is there any other considerations y'all factor in now?
I guess not really. One thing that we were wondering was how the it adds sort of like this financial layer to it, where you have to now trade tokens, and there could be a lot of like meme pump and
I
dump.
think there'll be a lot of gamblers, degenerate gamblers coming into Bittensor because of detail. I guess it'll give the token more liquidity, but we have no idea how it'll play out. And other pieces, we're still pretty early with like the documentation. There's like very, very limited documentation. You basically have to scroll up and down on a Discord channel to understand what's going on. And there was a research paper released by like Datura and OpenTensor, but it was very preliminary and they were pretty clear that it's like really early. And then speaking to a lot of key folks in the ecosystem, there's also like not a lot of clarity on when it's going to come out. Like it seems like it's somewhere between Q1 to Q2 2025. But yeah, I would love to see some documentation once it's ready. And I think OTF, from the limited conversations we've had, they will try their best to do like a education series, like make videos about it as well, so that everyone in the ecosystem, before it rolls out, I really hope everyone knows exactly what's coming their way before it rolls out.
Absolutely. And you guys have been in the ecosystem for coming up on a year now, I believe.
7 months, I would say 7 to 8 months since we started developing. I think our subnet's been live from May 9th, so that's like a bit over 6 months. So we're still very early. But yeah, I think we'll be building on Bittensor pretty much forever, or as long as the company is alive.
Awesome. That journey since May 9th, how has that been? Any remarkable milestones on that journey?
I think like doing Bittensor timed, like I was telling Akshat this yesterday, but I would say the company really, startups go through like a phase where you're trying to do a lot of things and nothing works, or like you're building your product and your product's not out there yet. And we went through that phase. We started working on this company in August 2023. We released, I guess, an app in around January, February, which was Impel, which is a productivity app. We were working on Dippy at the same time, but like this productivity app didn't take off. Then we released Dippy in April. We did Bittensor in May. And I would say May is when like we really hit takeoff and the company really started getting momentum. Like the app really started taking off in a major way. We started getting great results from our subnet. Yeah, May was the month I would say the app went viral for the first time. We had like a day where we had 12 or 15,000 DAO. And then we're like, forget about Impel. We're doubling down on Dippy. We're doubling down on Bittensor. And then since then, the app has just been growing like insane. We launched just in April, and now we have 600,000 monthly active users. We've we have really successful early experiments monetizing the app as well. And really excited to see where the app's revenue scales from here. But yeah, pivotal moment. I would say like Bittensor was like the month we started doing Bittensor was the month the whole business turned around and really took off.
1,000 active monthly users is
And each of them spend, the average user is spending an hour on the app, which is also something we have never seen in our experience building consumer apps. So like, and this will only grow as we add, like this is just text based. We'll add image to the app hopefully next week. Yeah, we're just testing internally. We'll add voice, maybe like January, February next year. And then we'll obviously be linking the speech subnet with the app as well. And then we'll expand to maybe video when that's out next year and then go from there. So like this hour, it's just text based, which I would say is like not very engaging. And so like just imagine how engaging this will get as we expand to other modalities.
Absolutely. If it eventually becomes an interactive video, that could be incredible.
Maybe we'll be talking to your character soon next year for a podcast.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Everybody have their own episode. What is y'all's path to monetization? How do you guys make revenue from Dippy?
I guess we have like a subscription model and a free tier with ads. I'd say like the split across both of them is almost like 70 or 60, 40, something like that. So 60% of the revenue comes from subscriptions. These are people who are paying for like better model, no ads, soon images, and there's a free tier where we show an ad every 15 messages, 10 to 15 messages, and that also generates revenue. But this is all really recent. I'd say barely
a month and a half.
Yeah,
a month is only started monetizing. Yeah.
That's really recent. 1 month, but I guess May 9th was also recent, depending on who you ask. What is a lesson you guys have learned while building, enjoying this progress?
For me, a major one has been like building a consumer app and then building on Bittensor. I've had to constantly remind myself, and I still have to do this every day, to like emotionally distance myself from the like results of the app, because our DAOs are fluctuating. Like we'll have a day where we'll have 40, 50,000 daily active. The next day we might have 15 or 20 or 30,000. And so we have like 10 dashboards at this point, like across the company, because we have a web app, Android app, iOS app, Bittensor Subnet. We'll have our second Bittensor Subnet. Like within Bittensor, our emissions fluctuate a lot as well, which is also just the nature of like building in crypto. The price of DAO fluctuates a lot. So yeah, it's just like I have to learn to like emotionally sort of distance myself from what's going on in the company and like not get like, of course I'm going to get emotional, or like there's going to be like feelings that will arise when we're doing well and when we're not doing well. But just like generally being level-headed is something I've been really trying to achieve in my day-to-day.
I guess for me, it's mostly fun. I don't know if I have like a specific lesson. I guess like more related to personal interactions, or like more of the human element than I guess like technology. I don't have like a good answer for this, but I'd say it's more like how to manage people, how to drive things forward.
There's so much change we've gone through in the last year. 1 year ago, it was just me and Akshat.
Yeah.
Now we have almost 15 people at the company. And then just figuring out, okay, how does our role change over time? And then within this space, like things are changing so fast, both in like on the character side, like both on the Dippy side, both on the Bittensor side. When you talk about human element, what do you mean?
Like more like, I guess like people, like sometimes I'd say like there's like times wherein people might not feel motivated, or they might get emotional, or like someone might be attached to some project. Like we had this employee who was really attached to us building a productivity assistant, which was natural. And even I was attached to building it quite a bit. But then I guess you have to,
We had to just abandon that and
Yeah.
work on Dippy. Yeah.
yeah. So I guess you just have to constantly be evaluating what's right for the company, then whatever attachment or whatever passion outside of that you might have. And yeah, that's how they done. But
It
mostly
comes with building your company. You went from just you two to 15 employees now, or 15-person operation. That's phenomenal growth. And y'all grew to 600,000 monthly active users. What has been the marketing strategy to get all these users? Because that is tremendous growth.
A lot of it is, so all of it has been organic. We experimented with paid ads and it never worked. Or it was just horrible. Like the cost to acquire a user was a lot. I guess we initially started just flooding TikTok with a lot of content, like tons of videos a day. Like we had like a marketing team, just flooding TikTok with a lot of content about Dippy. And at this point, it's like now our users have also started creating content. And what we found in our past experience as well is if you're able to make a product that's much better than what's out there, and I would recommend you try like Dippy and compare it to like the other apps in the space, or like Chai or Character AI or like all of these other apps. You will notice like Dippy is in many ways a superior product, especially on mobile. And we're like just 5-6 months old. Like we launched in April. All of these other apps have been around for years. It's just been building a 10x better product, and our user acquisition has been organic.
That's awesome. And how would you say you two, your role, how has that evolved coming from just you two to now a 15-person organization?
Yeah, I've learned things about myself that like, yeah, this is, I guess, like high level, I'll answer like, we were definitely like doing a lot of like individual contributor work. We still are. We're like very involved with a lot of stuff. Like Akshat will like write the notifications. Like my dad was telling me, oh, who writes Dippy's notifications? They're like so fun. I was like, Akshat writes it. Akshat will post on like our Instagram and stuff like that. Like I guess I was in even like a lot of the Bittensor work I'll do. Like someone was saying, oh, like add your like marketing and business development team. And I was like I am the marketing and business development team. But yeah, like generally, we've moved a lot from like individual contributor work to now like management and strategy. That's basically our job. Given like now we have like three like or Dippy's on 3 platforms, 4 if you count Discord.
Yeah.
And then we'll have 2 subnets now. And we're looking to work like Dippy is our main focus, but we're always excited and like looking at other projects as well. So I would say like just individual contributor to just being like more strategy, management, but still we're very much in the weeds with everything.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess I'd say it was more when it was just us two. The feedback loop was much quicker, wherein you could tell Angad something, or he could tell me something, and we'd turn around on it relatively quickly.
Instantly, yeah.
Now it's like you go through this top-down structure. Maybe it seems like information loss is happening at every level, and by the time it reaches the person who's actually implementing it, a lot of the details might get lost. So then when we have like this thing called the demo day every Friday, when it gets demoed, you'll see that a lot of information was just missing. And I guess a lot of it is like also falls on us or me personally. Like I'm really bad at writing things. I don't write much, but it's like a thing which is interesting how much information gets lost at every level down you go. So I was like wondering how companies would say like thousands of employees operate.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are doing a great job, and you guys are clearly builders at heart. So I'll wrap it up with this. Since you guys are builders, what advice would you have to other people building in the ecosystem or looking to build on Bittensor? What advice would you have for those people or teams?
I'd say like a lot of building is about like just exploring your interests deeper, and then maybe stumbling upon something wherein you feel there's like a gap, or it's something that you would have personally wanted. I think a lot of it is tinkering around the edges of what's happening in technology. And I'd say that's how we've mostly found success till now.
Yeah, I'd say this is gonna be really cliched and generic advice, but I personally, until I started and like even like each day, each week, I learned I didn't know I was capable of a lot of the things I've like done over the last few months or like over the last year. Honestly, like we both went to SF. We like stayed in a 1 bedroom together. We raised $2 million in like a month and a half. That was more than we ever thought we would raise. I guess like scaling an app, like we've done it at Wombo, but then doing it again was like pretty holy shit. It's like like I didn't know like I can do this again. Even like small stuff, like I hosted an event. Dippy hosted an event in the Google office. And that was the first event I hosted. But just seeing like how smoothly that went, like I had to coordinate like a lot of different pieces, speakers, attendees, getting videos recorded, making sure the edits are good, just like food, just like I mean, yeah, just I didn't know I'm capable of all the things I'm capable of. And until you start and try and push yourself, like you will fail a lot. But until you really like put yourself out there, you will never know what you're capable of. And so that's what I'd say. Just like start and yeah, just believe in yourself. This is like this sounds really cliched, but yeah.
Good advice. Angad, Akshat, it's been great talking with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Likewise.
so much, man.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Time.
pleasure.